China's hypersonic weapon could hunt us support aircraft, even far from the battlefield. For decades, the basic idea behind American air power has been simple. Keep the fighters close to the fight. Keep the tankers farther back. Keep the surveillance aircraft even farther away. And keep command and control aircraft deep inside a relatively safe rear area. But China may be developing a weapon designed to challenge exactly that assumption. According to a new Bloomberg report, the Chinese military has developed hypersonic glide vehicles capable of launching air-to-air weapons against high-value aircraft thousands of miles away. If the capability is operationally proven and deployed at scale, it could fundamentally change how the United States operates its support aircraft in a future conflict with China. And the targets would not necessarily be American fighter jets. They could be the aircraft that make those fighters effective in the first place. Think aerial refueling tankers, airborne early warning and control aircraft, surveillance platforms, and even flying command posts, such as the U.S. Air Force's E-4B Night Watch. These aircraft normally operate well behind the front line because they are extremely valuable and extremely vulnerable if an enemy gets within striking distance. China's reported development is aimed at pushing that danger much farther into the rear. So how would it work? A hypersonic glide vehicle, or HGV, is essentially a maneuverable weapon that is launched at high speed and then glides through the atmosphere at hypersonic velocity. Unlike a conventional ballistic warhead following a predictable trajectory, an HGV can maneuver during its flight. That makes tracking and interception more difficult. And China is now reportedly combining this technology with air-to-air weapons. The reported concept is particularly unusual because the weapon would use the enormous range of a ground-launched missile to get deep into an opponent's airspace before potentially deploying an air-to-air missile against an aircraft. Bloomberg reports that a hypersonic glide vehicle launched by China's DF-17 could travel around 1,500 miles, roughly 2,400 kilometers. That is just short of the distance between mainland China and Guam. Guam is one of America's most important military hubs in the Western Pacific. It hosts major U.S. military infrastructure and would be enormously important in any conflict involving China. Then there is the DF-27. Its estimated range is around 5,000 miles, or roughly 8,000 kilometers. That potentially puts Hawaii within the weapon's reach. But here's where we need to separate the terrifying headline from what has actually been demonstrated. A missile being capable of traveling thousands of kilometers does not automatically mean it can reliably shoot down a moving aircraft thousands of kilometers away. And that distinction is absolutely crucial. An aircraft is not sitting still. A tanker can change direction. A command aircraft can alter its altitude. A surveillance aircraft can move. And during a war, the target may actively try to deceive, jam, or destroy the sensors tracking it. So China would need something far more complicated than simply launching a missile. It would need a complete kill chain. First, China needs to detect the aircraft. Then it needs to determine exactly what aircraft it is. Then it needs to continuously track its position. That information has to reach the missile. The missile then has to fly potentially thousands of kilometers. And because the aircraft is moving throughout that time, the targeting information may need to be updated during the weapon's flight. At extreme distances, that becomes extraordinarily difficult. Bloomberg notes that a ballistic missile traveling at maximum range could take 20 minutes or more to reach its target. 20 minutes is an eternity for a moving aircraft. And every additional link in that chain creates another opportunity for the United States to interfere. Satellites can be attacked or disrupted. Sensors can be jammed. Communications can be interrupted. Targeting data can become outdated. And the missile itself still has to locate and intercept a moving aircraft. So this is not a magic weapon. But even the possibility of such a capability could create a major problem for American planners. Because the United States has built its air operations around a network of support aircraft. Take aerial tankers. A fighter jet's range and endurance can be dramatically increased when it can refuel in the air. But if tankers have to move hundreds or thousands of kilometers farther away from Chinese missile threats, American fighters may have to operate with less fuel and spend less time over the battlefield. The same applies to airborne early warning aircraft. These platforms provide commanders with a broader picture of the battlefield and help coordinate friendly aircraft. Push them farther away, and their ability to see and manage the fight can be reduced. In other words, China doesn't necessarily have to destroy every American fighter. It could try to attack the architecture supporting those fighters. That is a major theme in China's military modernization. A U.S. Air Force China Aerospace Studies Institute assessment said China's missile modernization increasingly focuses on the ability to inflict coordinated, system-level damage across an adversary's operational architecture. And that is exactly what makes this development so interesting. China already possesses a huge missile arsenal. The Pentagon estimated that China had at least 3,150 ballistic missiles and 300 ground-launched cruise missiles in 2024. Those figures represented enormous increases compared with 2015, roughly 147% for ballistic missiles and 50% for ground-launched cruise missiles. But Beijing is increasingly looking at those weapons as flexible platforms rather than weapons designed for only one mission. According to the Bloomberg report, China has also added air-to-air capabilities to some hypersonic cruise missiles and anti-ship capabilities to several other missile types. That means China's missile force could potentially attack different parts of an enemy's military system using increasingly diverse weapons. And China is not starting from zero when it comes to long-range air-to-air warfare. Its PL-15 is already a long-range air-to-air missile. The weapon was used during the India-Pakistan conflict last year, with Pakistan saying it employed the missile against Indian aircraft. But the reported hypersonic concept takes the idea much further. Instead of launching an air-to-air missile from a fighter hundreds of kilometers away, imagine a weapon launched from the ground, potentially reaching deep into an opponent's support zone. That is a radically different operating problem, and the United States is responding. Washington is also developing longer-range air-to-air weapons. The U.S. Navy has developed the AIM-174B, derived from the SM-6 missile. Its exact air-to-air range is classified, although the ground-launched SM-6 has a range of at least 250 miles. And the U.S. Navy has recently been testing the AIM-424 Malice, a Raytheon weapon reportedly capable of reaching targets more than 300 miles away. Lockheed Martin's AIM-260 is also in production, although it has not yet entered service. Europe has its own answer in the form of the Meteor, a ramjet-powered missile with a range exceeding 100 miles. So the race is already moving toward longer-range air combat. But China's reported HGV concept could take that race into another category altogether. There is, however, one potentially dangerous problem. A long-range ballistic missile launch can be difficult to interpret. Imagine U.S. early warning systems detect a Chinese ballistic missile launching toward the Pacific. How do American commanders immediately know whether it is carrying a conventional payload designed to attack an aircraft or something nuclear? That is the so-called discrimination problem. During a major crisis, uncertainty itself can become dangerous. A launch intended as a conventional attack could potentially be misinterpreted as the beginning of a nuclear strike. That creates escalation risks far beyond the aircraft actually being targeted. And there is another question. Has China actually demonstrated this capability in combat? No. The reported development is significant, but publicly available evidence does not establish that China has demonstrated a reliable operational ability to intercept moving aircraft at these extreme distances. That caveat matters. The difference between theoretical range and practical engagement range can be enormous. But even if the system isn't ready today, American planners have to consider what happens if it becomes reliable tomorrow. Because the strategic objective may not simply be to shoot down aircraft, it may be to force America to move them. If American tankers have to operate farther from China, fighters may have less endurance. If airborne warning aircraft move farther back, their coverage changes. If command aircraft have to relocate, communications and coordination become more complicated. China could therefore gain an advantage without necessarily firing a single missile. It could change the geometry of the battlefield simply by making previously safe areas feel unsafe. And that may be the real significance of this development. The future air war in the Indo-Pacific may not look like two groups of fighter jets meeting somewhere over the Pacific. It could be a massive contest between sensors, satellites, missiles, aircraft, and command networks, with both sides trying to destroy the other's ability to see, coordinate, refuel, and fight. For the United States, that means the traditional distinction between the front line and the rear may be disappearing. The aircraft that never expected to enter the fight could suddenly become some of the most important targets. And if China's hypersonic weapons can eventually turn that concept into a reliable operational capability, American tankers, surveillance planes, and command aircraft may no longer have the luxury of assuming that distance equals safety. The battlefield could stretch thousands of kilometers behind the front line, and in a future US-China conflict, there may be nowhere that is truly the rear.